We'll have opportunities for questions at the end. If you have questions that are clarifying questions as I'm going along that you want to put in the chat, Charles will interrupt me and make sure that we're seeing them. And then if there are questions that I can answer at the end, then we'll address them at the end. So I think I will go ahead and say officially, welcome. Welcome to Running Your Business So It Doesn't Run You. I'm speaking to you from the traditional homelands of the Haudenosaunee people, especially the Onondaga people. And one of my favorite projects that's happening in that community right now is the White Corn Project. So it's been a pleasure and a blessing to go and help sort corn and learn more about the importance of that food for the Haudenosaunee folks, and also to learn about the project of growing out and preserving that seed. The place I live in is now called Rochester, New York, and my name is Patty Love. I am a certified permaculture designer and teacher. I have had the pleasure of co-teaching with Starhawk and Charles for Earth Activist training. And while I'm mentioning Charles, I'll say thank you to Charles for hosting tonight. And thank you to the Earth Activist team who work behind the scenes to do the promotions, get the word out, that sort of thing. So we do have a good team. We're really blessed with that, and I'm really grateful to be a small part of that team. One of the things that I do in the organization for Earth Activist training is I teach regenerative business design, and I am also the coach for the Maven Makers program that I'll tell you a little bit about. So just some background, I've been growing plants forever. I have been working in permaculture for about 16 years now. And I've been a certified business coach for, oh gosh, I forgot to look that up. That's probably been 10 or more years. So I like to have fun putting together permaculture principles, ethics, and practices along with business, and seeing what we can do to make the world a better place. So that's one of the things that we are going to talk about tonight, is how to design a business so that it is truly regenerative, even for you. So maybe you've done something that has given you a business idea. So maybe you have a hobby and it's doing really well. You've been able to sell something that you've made, and a lot more folks are interested, and you decide to make it official and turn it into a formal business. Or maybe you've taken an Earth Activist training course like the Permaculture Design Certification or one of the other courses, and that gave you an idea and the skills for a business. And or maybe you've just heard somebody complaining about a problem and you know how to solve that problem. Whether you've had a formal training program such as an apprenticeship, or maybe you just had a dream about something that would be a great business idea, and you think you'd like to start a business, congratulations on having an idea, because that's a lot of times where it starts. And likely, if you're like me anyway, as you're thinking about this business idea that you have, you're probably mostly focusing your thoughts on the exciting parts of the business. maybe you're expecting a lot of freedom for your time, or expecting that you can make a lot of money, or making a huge difference in the world. And all of those things are possible for sure. And also, I think it's important to plan and prepare for what I call the full catastrophe. The full catastrophe just means life, all the unexpected things that happen along the way, things that maybe sometimes you can anticipate are possible, and then there will be a lot of things that happen that you never imagined. So, it's easy to get excited about your business idea, and optimism and enthusiasm are fabulous beginnings for a business. And so you might be thinking about that you get to be the boss and the boss of everything. That's definitely a plus in a lot of ways. And I think it's also one of the big minuses in the business, because as that boss, you're also responsible for everything. And of course, for smaller businesses, you're going to have even more responsibility. As businesses expand and there's a larger team, you may have less responsibility, direct responsibility. But a lot of times, the person who is the CEO or the founder is, they say the buck stops there. That's the person who's ultimately responsible. So, of course, if you start a business, earning potential is in your hand. And on the other side of the scale, there's no guarantee. It's not like when you have a job and you're almost certainly like going to end up with a paycheck at the end of the pay period. When you own a business, you can decide your hours. And oops, I forgot to change that one on the slide. I made a mistake there. Sometimes what happens is there are literally not enough hours in the day to do all of the important things that need to happen in a business. So that can be one of the challenges about time with the business. And again, on the plus side, your regenerative business can make the world a better place, sometimes in small ways and sometimes in big ways. And one of the challenges is that sometimes in making the world a better place, it makes your own world, your life, a more difficult place. So we're here to talk about how to minimize that. So I love this tool that my friend Nancy Roberts, who calls herself the Disc Wizard, because she has a really playful sense of when she's doing her very serious and helpful work. She has this tool where we look at the different areas of a business, and this is one of the exercises that we do in the regenerative business design class, is to rank your interest in each of these 8 areas, because the everything in a business that you might be doing, if it's a small business, you might literally be doing everything. And even if you have a team, if you are the primary, founder or owner of the business, it's a good idea to know at least a little bit of how everything works. That way you can better train and supervise folks who are working with you. And then if there's a problem and somebody on the team can't fulfill their role, then you can step in. So when I talk with small business owners, we talk about the fact that one of the challenges of being a business owner instead of an employee is that, in addition to having the skill to either deliver either the product or the service that you're delivering, you have that skill, which might come from education or practice or talent that you have. In addition to the product and service aspect, if you're going to be a business owner, then you also have to know how to run a business. And one of the people I work with recently said, she feels she's naturally an entrepreneur, and what she needs to learn is how to be a business owner. So these are some of the areas that I call the everything. So marketing and communications and bookkeeping, taxes, operations, buying the pencils, setting up any technology that's necessary, um, supervising folks who are working on your team, or working with independent contractors. These are all aspects of owning a business that are part of the everything that business owners need to handle or make sure gets handled. And understanding what you like to do and what you're good at, um, and where you need to either gain some skills or hire somebody. That is a real key to regenerative business design. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Um, so I have a degree in business, and I've worked in manufacturing, I've worked in higher education, I've worked in the not-for-profit world. 20 years ago, I had this great idea for a magazine that I still love the idea, but this is kind of my experience, my personal experience of business running me. I had an inspiration for a free local magazine called Rochester Lifeways to support folks who wanted to make choices that were more environmentally friendly. So the magazine came out every other month. It had articles in it that would educate people on the importance of making different choices, like why would you use low VOC paint, why you might want to go to a car wash instead of washing a car in your yard, things about land stewardship. We tried to cover all the big things in life and educate people on what to do to be more responsible environmentally, and then also like where locally you could buy that product or service, or learn the skill that you needed to support people in actually making that happen in their lives. So I talked with this idea, talked with a few friends about this idea, and um, and a couple of friends decided that they wanted to be part of the team and help me out. So I did a lot of research, and they mostly wanted to focus on writing and also helping with advertising sales, which was how this free magazine was getting funded. Um, and so as I made commitments with printers and distributors and advertisers, one of the first things that went wrong is my main partner, who was going to help with writing half of the content of the magazine, just decided she wasn't going to do it. So as you know, we were getting close to the deadline for getting the first issue out, she just decided not to do it. And then a little bit down the road after that, the person who was going to help me with advertising also decided not to do that. So there I was with my heart's desire happening, and I'd invested a ton of time and research and getting things going, and I was left to either shut it down or keep it going. So I did keep it going for about 18 months, and it was hard. It did definitely run my life. And financially, it cost me some money to do this. So it was a fabulous learning experience. But this is the pain that I experienced, from which I can help you avoid having an experience like that for yourself. And the things we're going to talk about are not an exhaustive list of strategies that you can use because we only have a short amount of time. But one of the things to consider is to put agreements in writing. And Starhawk teaches in the collaborative groups, I think is the name of the course. Sorry, Charles, we didn't talk about that one ahead of time. One of the best times to create a written agreement is before you have any disagreements. So, having some kind of contract with my friends probably would have been helpful to preventing some of the pain. So, optimism. Optimism is something that I come by pretty naturally, and is it an asset or a liability? And I think that optimism can be both. It can be both an asset and it can be a liability. It can be an asset because optimism is what can keep me going when things are challenging. When my friend backs out, like, oh, I can just make this happen. It also can be a liability because if I think things are going to go better than they likely are to go, that probably means that it's going to be expensive in some way. And I don't just necessarily mean money, it could be time, or any other, resource that I have. So think about your relationship to optimism as you design your regenerative business. So lessons learned, that's what I'm here to share. Overall, the foundation of this conversation is that we have a goal of building a business that's regenerative in every way. It does good things for the earth or mitigates harm that's being done to the earth. It supports our community in some way with jobs or service or product, and also that it provides for us some needs that we have, one of which hopefully is an income. So we're going to run through, well, not run through, we're not gonna run, talk about the permaculture or regenerative design process, designing for resilience, how you can avoid some stress, the importance of a business plan, a couple of strategies for staying on track with your business plan, and talk about the importance of building a network of support. So keeping in mind this goal of a regenerative business, a business that can make the world a better place and provide for the needs of humans or other beings, I want to ground us in a definition of permaculture that I like to use in case I say permaculture, just so you know what I mean, if you haven't already taken a course or read something about permaculture. I think of permaculture as an interdisciplinary design approach. It's systems thinking is one way to think about it. This design approach is based in and derived from the observation of indigenous practices of nature stewardship all around the world, and also the observance of natural ecological systems of relationships. And through permaculture design, we are trying to repair and create regenerative systems and systems of reciprocity for meeting human needs and also enhancing the quality of life or providing for the needs of all beings, plants, insects, non-human animals, and fungi. And this process, the design process for permaculture, I've adapted it, and this is this illustration is the process that I teach when I teach the regenerative business design class, which is a class that lives in the Earth Activist Online Training. It is a standalone course, or it can be part of the regenerative land management program. So you can take it for, if you do all of the homework, and do all of the homework well, you can earn a certificate. Um, and you can also just take it and not worry about the certificate if you don't need it for the regenerative land management or something else. So when we work our way through this process in regenerative business design, it's over 8 weeks, and there are pre-recorded videos for each module, and there's also a live session where we talk about the exercises, answer questions, do a deep dive into topics that are of interest to folks who are in the group. So this regenerative design process is used for permaculture design. Sometimes it's fewer steps. Different people divide the work up different ways. But this is the model that I use for teaching regenerative business design. And frankly, for how I design my life when I'm trying to consciously create my own life system. Permaculture, regenerative design, is based in these 3 ethics of earth care, people care, and resource share. And sometimes resource share is called fair share or future care. Basically, it's about creating an egalitarian system where everybody has what they need, and we're not concentrating resources that we don't need, that we're sharing them with other people. So those are ethics that are associated with permaculture and also with regenerative business design. So if you're creating a business, I encourage you to keep these in mind as a grounding, as a place of ethics to ground your business in. And then we also can talk about permaculture principles, and you'll see there are different lists that different people use. David Holmgren has a list of 12 principles. This particular list comes from Starhawk. And these are principles that we apply to the designs that we're doing, whether we're designing a garden or designing a financial system or designing a business. We can learn from nature and think about the connections of everything and weave connections into the various aspects of our business. And we can figure out how to do more with less and take responsibility and obtain a yield that's a profit in a business. It might also be profit sharing that you do, or giving money to other organizations, like through a voluntary land tax or 1% for the planet or something like that. So these are permaculture principles that can be applied to how you design your business. And one of the principles that I want to focus on for tonight is the third one, which is energy is abundant but not unlimited. So we need to, when we're thinking about a regenerative business, not only are we considering, is it regenerative for the planet and our community, but also is it regenerative for ourselves? So we have to design a business that we can sustain over time, that isn't running us, that we have the energy to keep persevering in. And as we're designing a regenerative business and thinking about how to make it so it is resilient, again, we can look at natural systems, and natural systems that have resilience are complex. There's many cooperative and independent relationships, and fewer competitive. So in a business, this is vendors who you do business with, where you buy your business cards, or the organic farmer who grows the blueberries for the jam that you make, or the store that sells your product. those are examples of some of the cooperative and independent relationships that might exist in a business system. Uh, Diversity is an important component of a resilient system. So diversity, we can think of not only who we're working with and make sure that we're supporting folks from every background and community that makes sense for what we're doing, but also diversity in our product, so in our income streams. So for example, if you're creating business where you're doing permaculture consulting, land-based permaculture consulting. Maybe you do some consulting, you do some teaching, you do some design work, and maybe you also sell some plants. And with those 4 different income streams, you're able to make sure that you have year-round income, and also that you if one thing isn't going well, so you have a crop failure, the deer eat all your plants, you still have your teaching and consulting and design work to rely on. So we want to build diversity into our businesses, and that's one of the things that keeps it thriving and helps keep it functioning really well so that the business isn't draining you. Redundancy can come through having team members who know how to do the same task. If you can have 3 people in a business that know how to do each task, that's ideal. If you are a sole proprietor, you are the only business owner and the only person who works in and on your business. That's a little bit trickier. But then sometimes you might think of redundancy in terms of systems that you have, like your record keeping, where you have it maybe on your computer or on a backup that happens daily, and maybe you also have a hard drive that you create a new backup once a month or once every 6 months, so that you have your records maintained in different ways. Through this complexity and diversity, redundancy, a well-designed business is also dynamically stable. And what that means is stability is not stagnation. Dynamic stability is resiliency, meaning that if, say, business is really high 1 week for the holidays, maybe, afterwards there might be a little bit of a lull. And vice versa, if there's a time where a business is really low, you're going to have another time where the business picks up, so that overall your income and expenses stay in balance, and you're working towards the amount of profitability that you need to have. So again, this is a big conversation, but if you want to design a business that that runs well and that doesn't run you, look to the examples of natural systems and think about how to bring these characteristics into your business design to support your success and your thriving. One of the things that we sometimes talk about in permaculture classes is that stress comes from keeping an organism from fulfilling its natural role, and stress comes from asking something to do something it isn't really capable of or isn't capable of doing well. So when we think again about these 8 areas of expertise that need to happen or be present in almost every business, we can think about this idea of stress and stress prevention. So, and yes, stress happens in the physical world, like wind breaking a tree branch or blowing strongly on a tree. Stress in the human realm and the emotional realm is our response to what's happening externally most of the time. And we can do practices like mindfulness and meditation to help mitigate the stress. We can also think about what we're good at and what we like to do and what brings us joy. And if there are things that we need to have happen for our business that we're not good at, we have the option of either getting good at that, building that skill, learning what that is, um, or of developing a team that can help fulfill some of these functions. So, and that can be done in a number of ways depending on the type of business that you're creating. And when I say business, that could also be a not-for-profit because they are ultimately businesses. So sometimes these different areas that need to be taken care of in a business might be handled by coworkers. They might be employees, they might be partners in your business, they might be members of your collective. It might be um, a board that you have board members, an advisory board, or maybe volunteers. And of course, also can be employees or independent contractors. So, as you're designing your business and thinking about how you're going to do the things in your business that you don't like to do or you are not easily skillful at, think about if you can and want to learn that skill or if you want to develop your team, because you will ultimately be happiest working in your business when you're doing the things that you naturally like to do. And also, it will be easier for you to find that balance of not having the business running you when you're doing the things that you really like to do. One thing that I think is really important that some people skip is to take the time to create a business plan. For a lot of reasons, I think that this is important. And just like if we were going to plant a garden, we're not likely to just buy or order a random collection of plants and seeds without first looking at where they're going to go, figuring out how much sun there is, how much space there is. We're going to have a little bit of a garden plan. So with a business, that's even more important because you're investing a lot of time and sometimes money. And so one of the things that we do in regenerative business design, if you do all of the exercises, is you will end the class with a business plan and an implementation plan for what you need to do to get your business launched. So when you take the time to create a business plan, that plan becomes your touchstone, and you can change it over time for sure, and probably should reevaluate. But it's a really important grounding document that you can use to remind yourself of what you're doing, what it is that you're trying to accomplish in terms of your business, how you do it, because there are a lot of different sections in the business plan, like your mission, vision, and values, who your customers are. So it is a really important touchstone for your business when you design with the end in mind, and create a business plan for yourself. And I want to encourage you, we can get caught up in the doing and all of the stuff we're going to create or all of the income that we're going to have, maybe not necessarily to hold on to build personal wealth, but to provide for ourselves, our families, and to make the world a better place, to use any excess money to support the good work of others. And in that process, that excitement, that optimism, we might really be tempted to skip these two important parts of the regenerative design process. And I want to encourage you not to. I want to encourage you to provide abundant time, to set aside abundant time for evaluating and pausing. So evaluating is checking that business plan, and looking at the outcome that you're getting from your business, how your sales are, or your marketing campaign, or who your customers are, whatever tools you develop for your particular business, and checking against the business plan to see if you are getting your desired results. That's what evaluate is. And then pause is can also be rest. And it can also be a team retreat, any way that you or your team gets recharged. I think those two things are really important. And when we take the time to evaluate, we can sometimes, hopefully, get that really good feeling of, hey, we met our goals. And that just, that's brain candy. It feels really good. And similarly, when we pause and we take time and we give ourselves the rest that we need, we're likely to be happier in our work and feel like our lives are in good balance and not feel like our business is running us. So take time and don't skimp on the evaluate and pause phase. And I want to encourage you to build into your calendar, your schedule, how you run your business, to build frequency of evaluation and pausing or resting. I want you to consider the what I'm calling the 3 R's tonight of review, like reviewing your results. That's evaluate. Reflecting, like how does that feel? Does it match where you want to go with your business? And resting, whether that means meditation, a nap, a day playing outside, whatever that is. I want to encourage you to put that in your calendar. Those are appointments that are, I think, as important as sales, as delivering your product, as the consultation that you're doing. I think it's important. And I would encourage you to try to at least have a few minutes every day. And also with the week, if you can find a rhythm, maybe you like to do it on Friday afternoon, or maybe you like to do it on Monday morning, but look ahead and look backwards. And I think it's important to allocate a little bit more time, at least once a week. Monthly, take some time at the end of the month to see where things stand. I would encourage you also to allocate some time quarterly to review the results that you're getting, and then annually. And I think that as you go through this list, like daily is a few minutes, weekly you might need an hour or maybe more, depending on, and as you work to annually, you might just have like an entire day where you're doing a retreat with your board, or some kind of evaluation and pause or rest that happens for a full day, perhaps, sometimes more for bigger organizations. When you're consciously creating your business and evaluating it, and using your business plan as a touchstone, it also makes it easier, I think, for you to protect your most important asset in your business, which isn't optimism, it's actually integrity. Because the more that we deliver what we say we're going to deliver, whether that is our product or service to a client, or reports to a coworker, or the tools that someone needs to do their job, the more we are integrity, the better I feel anyway, for myself, I just feel emotionally so much better when I'm in integrity. And also, then as we maintain integrity in our business relationships, just like any other relationships, then we also don't have to spend time doing repairs if we've made a mistake or blown something. So I like this idea of protecting your integrity, under promise what you're going to do for somebody, and then over deliver, like get it to them faster than you said they were going to, or maybe you've ordered something from Etsy and you've gotten the little surprise gift that you get. That's an example of over delivering, and clients really like that. So as you build in these times and spaces for the evaluation and pausing, you're better able to make sure that you're also on track with protecting your most important asset, which is integrity. Another thing that I think is super important for running your business without it running you is to have a reality check on your time and energy. Like I said, I am naturally an optimist. My to-do list is always bigger than the amount of time that I'm going to have in any given day, even though I work really hard not to make that be so. Time and energy are real limitations. There are 24 hours in a day as things are structured. We need sleep, we need food, we have other needs that we need to take care of. And, some days we might have a lot of energy, and some days not, like in the wintertime here in the Northeast. But regardless, time and energy are real limitations. So getting real about this limitation, I think it's really important to feel like you are running your business instead of vice versa. So how much time do you really have to work on your business? If I'm getting 8 hours of sleep, I have 16 hours in the day. If I'm planning to spend all of the 16 hours working on or in my business, then I don't have time for exercise or food or anything else that I do need in order to keep myself thriving. So figure out all the things that you need to do. And it doesn't have to be detailed in the extreme, but I'm a big fan of everything goes in my calendar. When I do laundry is in there, when I've cleaned the bathroom is in there, when I run errands is in there. And of course, things flex. But having all of the responsibilities that I have and a reasonable amount of time that they take in my calendar helps me see how much time I have for work. And if work is the non-negotiable and you need to make more time for it, then, maybe some other things do need to shrink or get somebody else in the household can take care of it or something like that. Also, as you're doing this reality check on your time and energy, find someone you trust and have them take a look at it and see if you've really, if you've got everything included and if you're being realistic about how much time those things take. Also, I'm a really big fan of factoring in time for the unexpected and time for things to take longer than I'm planning. There are so many things that happen that are unexpected. So if we have a calendar that's already full from the time that we wake up until the time we go to bed, and then the unexpected happens, which it will, then something has to go. And that can make us feel frazzled. So if we want to be running our businesses instead of vice versa, make sure that part of your time plan includes time for dealing with things that you weren't planning to deal with or that take longer than you expected. Another suggestion that I have that I feel really strongly about is building a network of support. And I use the spider web as an example of network because, that is the network pattern where there's multiple nodes of support and communication. So having a web of support is important. This can be joining organizations. It can be friends, coworkers, but having a network of support is really important, key to feeling like you are running your business instead of vice versa, because there will be things that come up that you need support with. And if you can just, pick up the phone, send an email, send a text, however you connect with your network, to say, hey, I'm having a tough day, or hey, I have a problem I don't know how to solve, or man, I just had to deal with this really grumpy client. I had to refund some money. Then you've got folks who can support you. And again, it'll help you be resilient as you're working in your business. So one of the networks of support that is available to you is this group that I lead called the Maven Makers. And the scoop on the Maven Makers program is that it is a program where people who participate in the program meet once a month for 90 minutes as a group. And then they also meet with me, just one-on-one, once a month for a 60-minute session. I limit the size of each Maven Makers group to no more than 6 folks. That way, when we do the group meeting, there's enough time where everybody can share and get some help with something if they need to. So that's why I've limited the size. And there's no long-term commitment. You can join Maven Makers for 1 month if you want to. Honestly, I think that you probably wouldn't get a lot out of it if you did that. But, it's not something that you have to say, oh, I'm going to do this for a year or whatever. You can join the program for as long as it makes sense for you and is supported. And I've had business owners who've been in the program for 3 or 4 months, and I've had some, gosh, I'd have to figure it out, but 2 or 3 years, I think. The investment for this program is $157 a month, which, if you calculate that on an hourly basis, is $63 an hour. And just for some perspective, a lot of certified business coaches or personal coaches will charge anywhere from $100 on the low end. I think a lot of folks charge $150 an hour, and then, on up to $2,000 an hour or $10,000 for a day or whatever. There's some really expensive programs, and I've tried to make this be affordable for folks who are in the Earth Activist Training Program, because of all the important work that folks are doing, wanting to, that's part of my wanting to give back, reciprocity, is to, offer this program at a pretty discounted rate. And just in terms of like who we have who participating in the group, over the course of time, we've had artists who were making product to sell, different kinds of consultants, people who were doing readings or doing like personal growth work. We've also had some farmers and folks who are doing value-added products, writing cookbooks, things like that. And we also have had people who are starting some kind of land-based permaculture business, like garden work or consulting. So this group really can be supportive for many, many different kind of folks. And if you have, well, when I say that, what I mean is this group can be supportive for many different kinds of businesses. So it's a good opportunity, again, to get a balance of groupthink, during the group sessions, all of the Mavens who are participating have the opportunity to say, hey, I've got an idea. Or also to like weigh in and say, hey, that's a real bummer. Or to say, wow, fabulous. So that's a little bit about the Maven Makers program as a means to getting a network of support. And also this group evolved because as I was teaching many cohorts of the Regenerative Business Design Group, I was getting messages from folks who wanted to know more, to go deeper, to have ongoing support for their businesses. So I modified what I've seen in the more mainstream business world and applied permaculture design to that, and created the Maven Makers program. So those are some of the thoughts on what I have to say, some lessons that I've learned, and thoughts on how to run your business so it doesn't run you, where we can apply permaculture, design process, ethics, and principles to creating your business, building that business plan. We're designing for resilience and avoiding the burden of stress as much as possible. Making space for evaluation and pausing or resting, also being realistic about the limitations of time and energy, and building a network of support as a way to get some objective feedback, get some supportive feedback, and sometimes a shoulder to cry on. So with that, we are going to open it up for questions. And so you can put your questions in the chat if you like. Do we have any questions, Charles?
I don't see any in the chat, but I've got a question for you. What are some of the benefits Maven Makers, people who attended the Maven Makers, the Mavens, have gotten from the program? Are there any things that you can point to, examples?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think some people have gotten clarity on how to refocus their business, because it's not just for new business owners, it's also for folks who've had a business going for a while, just like the regenerative business design class can be. So I think some of the participants have gotten some real clarity about the business and maybe some changes that would be really beneficial to make. Also, some folks have come to the realization that they needed to change their business model in some way so that it could be regenerative, and provide enough income for them. And here's one of the really interesting things that happens a lot. It so happens that many of the Mavens are identify as female or a woman, and a lot of times women identified people are socialized to not value our work as much. So one of the things that's happened over and over again in the Maven Makers program is that through conversations and encouragement, the Mavens have realized that they're not charging enough for their service and they need to increase their prices. And that's been kind of, surprising and not surprising, but that's one of the things that happens over and over again. So I just find that is interesting.
And for the people who attend the Maven Makers, what's the time commitment that people have?
Yeah, so we do the monthly meeting. Right now, the monthly meeting is on the first Thursday of the afternoon, and it is right now at 2 o'clock Eastern time. We have changed that over time depending on who's in the group and what works for folks. And then, so that's a 90-minute commitment. And then also everybody gets 1 hour of one-with-one time with me. And I have a couple of days of the month where I try to schedule that, and we try to do that the third week of the month, but there's flexibility in that. So it's 2.5 hours total time commitment during the month. Sometimes we talk about homework just as a way for people to have accountability. So, by the time that we have our next meeting, do you think you could come up with a description of who your ideal customer is, for example? So there might be time if folks are choosing to, keep that commitment to do a little bit of homework to advance their business. And then in terms of, I just want to clarify because this has come up a couple times. There is no duration that folks have to commit to when people are joining the group. They're paying each month and they can start and stop at any time. I do think that it's probably reasonable to think that to get real benefit from it, because it takes a little while to learn about folks' businesses and stuff. I think probably it's a good idea to plan on at least 3 to 6 months. And if folks needed help with something and didn't want like an ongoing commitment, they could also talk to me about just like having a private session with me. But yeah, there's no contract for a year or anything like that. Anything else? Okay. Well, Charles, do you think we're ready to wrap it up here?
I think so. I guess I'll just say thank you to folks. And we will be sending out the recording in the next few days. So if you want to watch this again, you can check out the recording. It should be coming out. And you also can check out any of the links to upcoming classes at earthactivisttraining.org. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and if you have any questions for me, you can reach me at patty@earthactivisttraining.org too. So thanks for being here. And thanks again, Charles, for hosting tonight. All right. Good night.